The Hunter's Call has been a faction in Sea of Thieves for over 5 years, being introduced with the anniversary update on April 30th, 2019. And in this time, it has been a great faction, but I do believe it requires a serious update to stay relevant and fun in today's game. Every other faction in Sea of Thieves has had huge changes to it since they were introduced. So, of course, the three original ones, the Gold Hoarders, the Order of Souls, and the Merchant Alliance, have had big changes in respect of their voyages. You know, the cargo runs, the Merchant, the Vaults, the Gold Hoarder. And there have been so many new ways to earn and level up whilst playing for these factions. So, forts, world events, they all drop really high-level loot for these factions. And it makes really makes the grind much easier and much more enjoyable, especially when you can just do it whilst doing something else. So you can be on a Gold Hoarder voyage and still earn Order of Souls loot, for example. Or you can do a Fort of the Damned and get loot for all free. And then, of course, there's the Reapers, which, again, by getting every bit of loot for every faction, you can just get any faction loot and give it to Reapers and you earn rep. And obviously, sinking ships is a really fun, easy way to level up. And then the Athena's Fortune, which had probably the biggest revamp in the recent updates, where it's now so much easier to get loot, to get reputation. There are so many voyages now that you can do for Athena's Fortune, from skull forts to skeleton ship fleets, and so many new ways to level up now, and so many new trinkets to earn. So all of these factions have been made so much easier to level up, and there's this one faction that's been left behind throughout all of this, and that's the Hunter's Call. The Hunter's Call has stayed the same in terms of ways to level up since it's been added, and the only ways to level it up are by fishing or fighting Megalodons and Krakens. That's the only way you can get reputation, or a bit of a cheating way is to buy reputation from the bilge rats every month. Now, you can find fish in barrels, especially in shipwrecks, but they are pretty rare to find, and you're not going to be finding ones that give you too much reputation. Now, the really annoying thing about fishing is you have to go to certain areas and use certain baits to find certain fish. So if you want to find an ashen, like a devilfish, for example, you have to go, of course, to the Devil's Roar. And you want to find a plentifin, you've got to go to the Shores of Plenty. You want to find a battle gill, you've got to go to a shipwreck, I believe. No, sorry, an active fort, and then wreckers are at shipwrecks. So it's really, really annoying because you have to find all these different types of fish at different locations, and it becomes a bit of a grind. Especially the length of time it takes you to catch a single fish, especially a trophy fish. I just don't think fishing is a worthwhile grind to really put time into. I think when you're sailing between locations, or if you maybe want to put an hour and just chill and fish while listening to music, then it's fair enough. But as a way to play the game, it's really, really outdated. I mean, a lot of my levels, I'm level 50 in Hunter's Call, and most of my levels probably did come from buying levels because I've played the game for so long. I mean, I've caught almost every fish in the game, but still, even without buying levels, I only would have been maybe level 25 or something. I bought a lot of levels with the Hunter's Call, I will say that. The Hunter's Call definitely needs a revamp. It needs new voyages, new way to level up, and I think it needs to be made easier to actually level it up because it's too much of a grind right now, especially when you see what they've done to Athena's Fortune, by far the most grindy faction up until the revamp. So I think that it would definitely be better if they maybe had fishing contracts where you had to go to a certain location where you knew you'd find a certain amount of fish. I think that could be cool. Maybe contract voyages I think could be a cool idea. I think they need to make it easier. They need to put more fish into barrels. You need to get more drops, maybe for Megalodons and Krakens. Maybe they could even make a bounty system where you've got to track down a Megalodon. They could add voyages like that. Maybe make Krakens and Megalodons more useful in game, where you can kind of track down a Kraken, and then you've got to bring back a certain amount of its meat, or maybe even a legendary Kraken, and you can find special meat there. Who knows? They could definitely do a lot with this faction. There's a lot to do. You could have loads of contracts, loads of new voyages, and stuff like that. Maybe you could even have little raids on certain storehouses or something. I think it could be really cool. They could really implement a pretty cool way to level up the Hunter's Call, because it's definitely a fun faction to level up, but it's just really, right now, it's just not worth it. The cosmetics aren't that good either. I don't think it's worth it to get the cosmetics. The titles are cool, but the cosmetics really aren't worth it. The Killer Whale set isn't exactly the best in the game, and the faction has laid pretty dormant for years now. It really hasn't seen much change in a long time. And I think that it definitely needs a revamp to stay relevant, because most players will not have leveled it up and will not have progressed in this faction far at all, just because of how grindy it is and how long it takes to get. Now, according to Xbox, which is very unreliable for this sort of thing, only 0.22% of all players have managed to get level 50 in the Hunter's Call, which is about 1 in 500. And just to put it into perspective, I believe it's 5 times the amount of players who actually defeated the Burning Blade, which was only released about a month ago, which just shows how little people play the Hunter's Call. I mean, of course, thinking of Burning Blade is easy, but still. It's honestly ridiculous how underused this faction is now, and most people just don't even do any sort of fishing. I rarely fish in game. I would say most of my kind of reputation for the Hunter's Call, aside from buying levels, has come from going to shipwrecks and collecting fish from there. That's quite fun. Maybe they could have certain contracts where, for the Hunter's Call, for example, there's a ship which are delivering a ton of fish, and you have to deliver that to the Hunter's Call. You have to go down into that wreckage and deliver certain things for that, maybe. And I think that could be a really cool idea, similar to what they do with the merchant cargo voyages. That's just my suggestion on how to improve the Hunter's Call, but I do think they really need to make a drastic change because the faction is becoming a little obsolete. Although it is fun, the cosmetics aren't worth it, the levels aren't worth the grind. It's really just not worth the effort. So that's my suggestion on how you'd improve the Hunter's Call. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the kind of short, different kind of video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.